So it's another vlog for equipment testing because Digital Store in cooperation with Canon Austria or Canon Austria in cooperation with Digital Store Vienna, I'm not 100% sure, gave me this bag and there's some unreleased, really secret stuff in there and I have no idea what it is. I have an idea. I'm not 100% sure what it is. So we're going to open it together, then we go through whatever is in there and that's going to be cool, so let's not waste any more time. My name is Damon Cooper, Monkey Pixels. More on that after the intro. Backpack, it's pretty light. There's an IKEA bag in here. We got lenses. We got an RFS 18 to 150, holy smack. With image stabilization, interesting, it's tiny. We got another RFS lens, it's an 18 to 45, also image stabilized, and that one is even tinier. So, considering that our RFS lenses, I think it's the first RFS lenses, right? There haven't been any RFS lenses before. We can maybe kinda draw a conclusion to what else is in there. Nothing! It's empty. But there's the hidden department. We got this. It's the EOS R7 and that has been rumored for a long time and I have it in my hand right now. Look at that joystick. That I haven't seen. Oh, that's two joysticks. I'm like, I kind of feel like I'm acting, but I'm not. I'm just like, okay, this is... So there's one joystick, and then there's another, no, there's actually a wheel, and then there's a joystick. That's kind of cool. No display, just like the RP and the R6. Oh. Well, that's interesting. We can switch from manual focus to autofocus in front of the body. I've never seen that before either on a Canon camera. That is new. Ooh, and we also have we have an off switch, we have an on switch, and we have a video switch. Kind of similar to the R5C. We have another camera, and I have literally I have no idea what the other camera is going to be. This is the EOS R10. What is that? I have not seen a rumor about this camera. I have no idea what this is, but I can tell you it's tiny. But the grip for my hand is actually quite nice. You want to test it? Hold it.
With my baby hands or what?
Yeah.
Oh, right? That's nice. And it also has the autofocus, manual focus, click in the front. But it has the normal joystick. Like, normal joystick.
So I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty much 100% sure that because it's RFS lenses, those should be APS-C sensors. So crop sensors around 1.6. Oh, yep. APS-C size sensor. Look at this tiny sensor right here. This is not full frame. Oh, that was even smaller.
And it's open.
Well, that might not be an APS-C sensor. That might be even smaller than the other one. Interesting. All right, let's start with one camera. Let's start with the R7. Otherwise, we get confused. I'm already confused.
But it's so much fun.
No carding camera. Oh, that is actually... Okay, we have no carding camera. What kind of cards does this take? It takes 2 SD cards, apparently. Cool. All right. And we are set to FV. What is FV? I've never heard of that mode before. Yeah, that looks definitely different. Look at that menu. With images inside and explanations of what that does. So what is FV actually? Let's figure it out. Flexible priority auto exposure. Can be set manually or automatically. That's interesting. All right. That is one insane zoom lens. Holy macaroni. 18 to 150 on an APS-C sensor. Okay, the autofocus is already starting to track, although I can't see a face anywhere. Oh, yeah, I autofocus. Bam, tracked on. Back of Bell's head. Yes, even the back of Bell's head. So autofocus status? Good. And let's fire up the menu. The menu looks pretty much exactly the same as on all of the other Canon cameras. At least the Q menu, the quick menu. That's good. Then let's go to the actual menu. Yep, just a regular Canon menu. Looks pretty much the same. Let's switch it to video mode now. That was instant, by the way, no 7-second delay or anything. Go to the menu. Menu is also the same as on all the other Canon cameras. So no R5C separate other video menu. Let's figure out what this can do in video, because I'm quite interested, because I have no idea what megapixels it has, what kind of frame rates it has. I think they send me a spec sheet, but it's so much more fun to just figure out by yourself, right? Okay, so we have movie recording size full HD 25 frames. We also have a 4K crop mode, and we have a 4K fine mode and a 4K regular mode. In 4K fine you can only shoot up to 25 frames, and in 4K you can shoot up to 50 frames, it seems. That's cool. Do we have a crop additionally if we go into 4K? That's the question. Nope, no additional crop. Still the same. That's good. 4K, no crop, good. Do we have any higher frame rate though? That's the question. High frame rate on, but it's only 1080. All right, if we want to go to high frame rates, then we can go 100 frames, probably also 120 frames, but we're in Europe. And there's no audio recorded in high frame rates, but it's 1080. So we can do 1080, 120 frames, 4K, 50 frames. No crop, it seems. So far, this is actually quite small. Let me actually get the R5. So let's compare the R5 standard full frame body to the, yeah, it's pretty much an R6 body. So it's a little bit smaller than the R5, but really not. This isn't definitely a reason to buy this camera because it's smaller than another camera. I like that ring. Like this is, I mean, I haven't really used it, but I like the idea because now you have like two things. And so far, going through the menu, there wasn't even like a second where I was accidentally turning the wheel instead of just using the joystick. So using the joystick and the wheel separately looks good. Cool. All right, that's very interesting. But that was kind of to be expected. I think this is basically an R6 APS-C version with a smaller sensor and new lenses. So that could be a good thing, or for some people a bad thing. People who like full frame might not be the best for them, but people who like more cost-effective stuff and way more lens choices, because you can use all your full frame lenses here. Actually, can you? Let me get an adapter, because I don't have any RF lenses here. We have another APS-C lens, and that is the Tokina 11-20, and we have the RF to EF adapter. So let's see if that one works on this camera, or if we need a special adapter to go to other lenses. No error message, and we have 11-20 2.8 autofocus included. That's nice. Okay, so we can use all of our RF to EF adapters, and then we can use lenses like the Sigma 18-35, or we can use a Tokina 11-20. We can use all the other lenses that we want, including full frame lenses, Canon lenses, other lenses. Great. Those lenses look a little different, but that's good to know. I'll get this one on here because that's quite the cool lens actually. I like that mount, and it's really tiny and flexible. But now to the R10, because again, I have seen anything about this camera whatsoever. Again, let's just confirm it real quick. Yes, regular. Oh, there's actually the LP6NH in there. So that's the batteries from the R5 and R6. So a little bit more juice. So yeah, this is basically, from what I can tell right now, it's an R6 and APS-C format. But now to the R10. This one is really tiny. This one is way smaller. And it also features different batteries. But it's not like the M50 lineup. It's something in between, I think. Which is kind of cool because it's an actual RF mount with everything. But it's an even smaller sensor. So that's what I'm interested in. It's like 1-inch sensor or something. Anyway, let's fire it up and see what's going on. Here we only have an on and off. We don't have a separate switch to go to video immediately, but we can obviously go to video on top of this. Okay, so we are in video mode. Let's go to manual mode just to see what's what. The Q menu also looks kind of the same. The regular menu looks pretty much the same. Interesting. All right, let's switch to the video mode because I'm kind of interested in that one. So what kind of stuff do we have here? We have a menu that looks like all the other menus. We have 4K up to 25 frames, or in 4K crop mode we can go all the way up to 50 frames. Cool. It also features IPB. I think, yeah, we have a light IPB and a regular IPB. High frame rates, we have also 1080 up to 100 frames. So if we want to shoot 100 or 120 frames, we can do that. We can also switch between the IPB and the IPB light. That's cool. Sound recording, we have a hot shoe on top. We have micro HDMI port, USB-C ports, just as on most cameras. And we have a microphone. We don't have a headphone jack. Okay, so that we need to keep in mind. We have a remote for time lapses, and we have a microphone mount. This thing is tiny. I think for a lot of people this could be like a cool, like tiny vlog camera. Like if you just want to have like a tiny microphone on top and then use this for vlogging with a flip out screen and like a nice wide lens, because this thing is really small. Like I can't tell you enough of like how light and small that setup is compared to. So with the lens and everything, this is still lighter, like a lot lighter than the R5, for example. It's also a lot smaller. However, it does really sit nicely in my hand. I really do like this. All right, so now I'm curious. So I'm going to my computer and I'm going to look up the specs of these two cameras because I want to know what kind of megapixels they have, what kind of other features they have. So let's go before we actually start shooting with those and check out the specs.
A few inches later.
I didn't even know you were standing behind. Okay, so we got two sensors, and that's quite interesting. Because the smaller camera, the R10, has the APS-C1 sensor, whereas the R7 has the APS-C2 sensor. And from what I can tell here, they both have the same crop factor, and it kind of looked like they have the same crop factor, but I will do a little bit more testing on that. They just have different specifications, but it's not like a micro four third sensor or anything, although it looked quite small. So let's start with the R10. The R10 shoots with 24.2 megapixels, so that's quite a decent amount of megapixels. And it shoots up to 15 frames in mechanical shutter mode, but up to 30 frames in raw burst mode, which is insane, 30 frames per second with a 75% crop. That's a big crop, which could be cool for sports photography actually, where you would need 30 frames per second or for wildlife, so I don't think that's a big issue, but then you would have less megapixels. Anyhow, we only have one SD card on the smaller camera. We have a low light auto focus with up to -4 stops, so that's cool. We don't have in-body stabilization on the R10, so that could be a bummer for some people if they want to vlog with it. However, both of the RFS lenses that we just saw have image stabilization built into the lenses. So I think that most, if not all, RFS lenses that are about to come will have image stabilization, so that shouldn't be an issue. It shoots up to 4K 30, downsampled from 6K, so that's pretty cool. So we can expect some really cool crisp video. And apparently it also has a built-in flash, which I haven't seen, but that's cool. But now back to the R7. So the R7 isn't necessarily a APS-C version of the R6, which I thought earlier. It's more of a cropped version of the original R because it has 32.5 megapixels. So that could be something, because a lot of people are complaining about the R6 only having 20 megapixels. So if they want to go bigger, then they have 30 megapixels. And it also shoots up to 30 frames per second. I want to test this, by the way. In burst mode without crop. So that's crazy. No crop, 30 frames per second. That's insane. Dual card slot, already talked about. Better low light performance when it comes to the autofocus, according to this sheet. We do have in-body stabilization up to 8 stops or levels or whatever. So that's pretty cool. Like, that's a pretty strong IBIS. And we shoot 4K 60, no crop, and oversampled from 7K, so that's also pretty cool. And we have C-Log 3 and HDR and PQ formats, so even if you want to shoot video with this, then this is a pretty cool thing to shoot video with. And now we're going to test these out. This literally feels like a machine gun. You know the meme with Sylvester Stallone and Rambo? Holy smack. 30 frames per second. What are like the 1DX Mark III shoots? Like what, 20 frames per second? And that shoots 30 in RAW?
I want to hear it again.
I'm in RAW. Or RAW. Alright. Oh. Low ammo.
Yeah, out of ammo.
I ran out of ammo. No, but actually, like, it's buffered already. I could just keep shooting.
So what do I have to do?
Jiggle, jiggle. Why do you always have to flip people off?
I'm exporting that way.
I'm just hand holding 150 millimeters on an APS-C sensor, no issues. There's no movement whatsoever in there. So stable. What I'm most interested in is the price, because that's crazy. And I think they're like significantly less expensive than like an R6, for example, because it's not full frame, but the R6 isn't even that expensive to begin with. So if this one is way less expensive and shoots 30 frames per second in RAW, respect. I'm looking for a tiny microphone because I think that the R10 could actually be a really cool camera for content creators that just want to, you know, do a little bit of vlogging and filming, but don't want to take like a whole big camera somewhere.
Maybe some tripod thingy for...
Set the lens to shooting position. Ah, the lens has a shooting position. That's interesting. So that is retracted, can shoot. And then you go to, bam, 18 millimeters. Yeah. Now we can shoot.
I know.
Let's go to everything auto here, just to see how good this camera is as a vlogging camera. Let's go to the menu. And there is sound recording auto. Is it recording? Let's just test it. Hi, I'm vlogging now with the 18-45 RF lens and the R10, and that should work hopefully. I mean, I don't know if I'm recording audio, but I should be recording audio. I'm completely overexposed because I'm not using any ND filters, so that is kind of natural. So let's go out of the sunlight and see how that camera adapts. But this is really, like, I can't even stress how light this is. It's incredibly light. It's really just nothing. So for a content creator that really just wants to have a tiny camera and not want to lug around a big production camera and multiple lenses, this is a great setup, because then you can turn around and then you can film some b-roll of something or vlog with other people. Like I'm going here, like, hey, look, there's Belle, she's on the channel, subscribe. Oh.
Jesus Christ, you just did. I just was trying if the autofocus is getting me.
That's what the black eye came from. No, this is like, it's fanning my eye, which usually it always goes to the people with the thicker eyebrows.
Usually
but
hits me, so yeah.
it really does work well. So that's kind of cool. And that is a cool set. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, we're vlogging with like a big camera and everything, but like if you just want to have like a really small, tiny camera, this is it. This is your tiny vlog cam. It has a 49mm filter thread. I've never heard of this before, but I'm pretty sure you can get ND filters for 49mm.
Never lenses like that.
Honestly, I like that. I really like that kind of really tiny setup. Not gonna lie. I think that's kind of cool. All right, let's go upstairs and shoot some pictures.
A few moments later.
we tested all the photography and I wanted to use the lens that they gave me, the 18 to 150, and that's actually a pretty cool lens for like, you know, travel stuff. But now I want to test a little bit of the filmmaking side, but that would be a lens that I wouldn't use for filmmaking at all. So I'm getting another lens that is a little bit more open and that I can also get an ND filter on, because that is a 55mm filter thread and I don't have any filters or step-up rings for 55mm. Alright, let's shoot some video. I think we have everything. We need to make an informed decision on what these cameras can and can't do for like a first vlog. So I'm going to give a little statement later in the studio to talk about my impressions, but I think I like them. It all really kind of depends on the price, of course, but it's a pretty cool start, like venturing into the mirrorless APS-C budget factor. And I think honestly, like shooting with this camera, either video or photo, I couldn't really tell a difference if I'm shooting with the R6 or the R7, so that's good. Just basically a different lens mount, but pretty much the same camera. And the autofocus is amazing on that one. The fact that it shoots 30 frames per second in RAW at 30 megapixels is also insane. I think this could actually be a good alternative for people that feel like, oh, the R6 doesn't have enough megapixels and need something fast, and this is pretty cool actually. I like it. All right, I'll see you in the studio.
1 hour later.
Okay, our initial testing is done and now I want to give you a quick opinion on how I like shooting with these two cameras and the two lenses. But let's be real here, I'm obviously not the target audience for either the lenses or the cameras, because we have a lot of cameras already and our productions are usually a bit bigger. But I also started somewhere. When I started 15 years ago, I had a Canon EOS 350D and that was an APS-C sensor lens, and I also had lenses among the 18 to 300mm range. So I can still remember these days, and I wish I had equipment like we just used today. When looking at the images coming out of the R7 and even the R10, I really couldn't see that big of a difference compared to an R6 or maybe even a R5. And you really have to pixel peep and go into it to see differences and advantages of the R5 over an R7, for example. There will be a little bit more noise on the R7 compared to the R6 and the R5 because, well, it's a crop sensor and that just usually comes with the territory. But when it comes to shooting pictures, the algorithm of noise reduction tools is so great these days. I wouldn't really make this a deciding factor unless you always have to shoot in extreme low light. Where we could however see a big difference in the noise levels was when shooting video in C-Log 3 on the R7. And here you can obviously tell that there is much more noise in the shadows compared to the R6 or the R5. And this could become annoying if you're shooting a lot in low light and you have to denoise your footage all the time. And this is what we had to do with the original EOS R a lot. And stepping up to the R6 and the R5, that problem was completely gone. And we hardly ever had to use noise reduction afterwards. With the R7 and the smaller sensor, this might become a thing again. One thing I have to say though, I loved handling these cameras and there wasn't really anything that stood out, especially the form factor, even on the really light and small R10, and having that extra grip was absolutely amazing for a small camera like this. What I was mostly impressed with was the 30 frames per second, and that is something that no other Canon camera can do. So now you have a new lineup of APS-C cameras where you have more range because you have a smaller sensor, so you can use all your APS-C lenses and you can actually get further to your subject with 30 frames per second shooting RAW. So this is a wildlife as well as sports photographer's dream. So there you have it. This was my impression of the R10, the R7 and the new released RFS lenses. And if you want to see more content about Canon cameras, tutorials, behind the scenes, then please give this video a like because it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more and I hope to see you on the next one.